So Supriya, this week we are looking at export numbers. Both export trades and export volume, they are going up double digit. So what does it actually mean for the economy if we see such great exports?
Usually, because last year we had such high export numbers, and that was actually driving our GDP. So when I actually spoke to many economists on this, they said last year our GDP was an exports-driven story. So looking at that, the next question would be like, how would it look like in 2018, given that last year we had that exports driven? But they believe that it would be exports would actually moderate in 2018, but that's not exactly a bad thing because we're coming from such a high base effect in 2017.
So when we say this year is going to be lower than last year,
Yes.
How would that actually affect the exporters? Are they actually worried? You talk to some of them. Are they worried about this?
No, I wouldn't say that they're worried because I think they are they are sort of. I think they expected that that high base effect last year, that it would actually moderate this year. So it's not something that people were saying that it's out of expectation or anything like, because we're coming from such a high base effect. But if you actually look at exports volume, they're actually growing not exactly in tandem with the value of exports, but it's actually quite close. Like for example, in November, our exports in terms of value grew by 14.8% in November 2017. But in terms of volume, it actually grew about 9%. So that's like a 5 percentage point difference, which is not too bad. So actually, and also the projected global demand in 2018 is actually, the IMF has forecasted that global growth will grow at 3.7% in 2018.
Right.
So with that higher forecast in mind, and with semicon sales supposed to go up and glove exports supposed to go up in 2018, so I don't think the exporters who are primarily semicon players and glove players, I don't think they're too concerned about that.
So what does it mean for GDP, the number? Because export, it's part of the GDP, part of the thing that drive GDP growth.
I think because last year we had an exports-led story, so this year economists are saying it's going to be domestic demand that will be driving the economy. So that's another component of GDP and consumption and inflation and all that. So that would actually drive the GDP numbers in place of the net exports. So yeah, that is what. But it's not saying that export numbers are actually going to be bad this year. It's still going to be a positive growth compared to 2016 when we had negative growth in exports. So it's going to be a positive growth, but just not. We're not going to see the high double-digit numbers that we actually saw in 2017.
So if that's the case, right, what are the exporters saying?
I think when it comes to the case of ringgit and the exporters, it's not exactly uncharted waters for them because they're used to the currency fluctuating. And if you actually look back before the oil prices started to crash, the ringgit was actually at levels of 3.2 and 3.3, which was actually much stronger than where we are today at 3.99 against the dollar. So with that in mind, exporters are actually prepared for this kind of fluctuations of currency. They have, it's either they have a natural hedge, meaning that, if their sales are in US dollar, they make sure that their input costs are also in US dollars, so there's a sort of a natural hedge. Or they enter into foreign currency derivatives, like foreign currency contracts, forward contracts, those sort of currency derivatives to mitigate the impact of the foreign exchange risk. Yeah.
So Supriya, overall, what does it mean for the economy in 2018?
Well, if you look at the GDP forecast for 2018, like some houses are saying it's going to be 5%. Last year in 2017, the first 3 quarters of the year, it averaged around 5.9%, like that. So it's actually a slower GDP growth, which many have forecasted, which is because we're coming off of that high base. But I think with the export numbers to some extent will support the GDP numbers, but as it's domestic demand that's going to be driving the economy. But having said that, it's not to say that we're going to do badly this year. It's because we are coming from that high base of 2017.
For more on the stories, pick up a copy of The Edge Weekly at all good newsstands.